Tonight on The ReidOut.
I'd love to talk to you people. I'd love to say everything that's on my mind, but I'm restricted because I have a gag order. And I'm not sure that anybody's ever seen anything like this before.
Day 2 of testimony in Trump's hush money election interference trial. And the judge has already had it with Trump and his legal team. Meanwhile, I was in the courtroom as the first witness, David Pecker, gave riveting testimony about his interactions with Trump. I will tell you what I saw and heard. And that is where we begin tonight, with the historic first ever trial of a former American president, as Donald Trump spent a second day in court before a Manhattan jury. It was a day that I can say I witnessed personally as I took my turn to be at the courthouse. And has been the case so far, there were no throngs of Trump supporters outside raising hell on his behalf. I only noticed this one guy who had a crucifix and rang a loud bell while wearing a T-shirt declaring that the three greatest U.S. presidents were George Washington, John F. Kennedy, and Donald Trump. Other than that, for all the giant barricades erected downtown, the largest numbers present were police officers and reporters, plus a couple of adorable middle schoolers who came down to see the events from inside court. Inside the courthouse, I started out as Team Overflow Room, and then, through the endless grace of Lisa Rubin, moved to the main courtroom for the second half of the day. And while I've written a book about Donald Trump called The Man Who Sold America, for which I interviewed many a Trump person and former campaign staffers, etc., today was the first time I've actually been in the same room with Donald Trump, the tormentor of black teenagers like myself in the late 1980s when the Central Park 5 trial took place in that very same courthouse. What I can tell you is that he is taller than you might expect and walks in a gait that is shufflier than you'd think, kind of a shuffly waddle. And he's definitely a scowler, although who wouldn't be scowly facing 34 criminal counts in a case that could, in theory, send you to prison. I can also confirm that he has a strangely orange hue, although lighter orange now that he's out of the Florida sun and away from the tanning beds. And whoever does his hair masks the thinning in the back and on top with some deft cantilevering. But how today started was not so much about Donald Trump, the man, as it was about Donald Trump, the obsessive, repeated social media user. The first 2 hours of the day, without the jury present, was a battle between Trump's lead defense attorney, Todd Blanche, and Judge Juan Marchand about whether Trump had on 10 separate occasions violated an April 1st gag order by posting and reposting about potential witnesses in this case, including Michael Cohen, Stormy Daniels, and even former New York prosecutor Mark Pomerantz, who apparently Donald Trump wants to see jailed. The posts included amplifying comments from Michael Avenatti, who you might remember represented Stormy Daniels before she fired him for apparently stealing from her and other clients, something for which he remains in prison, though he somehow is also still doing interviews. And also for amplifying this segment on Fox, attacking the jurors in this case on April 17th.
They are trying to rig this jury. They are catching undercover liberal activists lying to the judge.
Yeah, no, they're not. Judge Marchand proceeded to scold Todd Blanche in extended fashion for not being able to explain to him how Trump's attacks were a response to political attacks. It was kind of like watching the kid who didn't do his homework get owned by the college professor. And when it was over, Todd Blanche was quickly moved to second chair. When that part of the hearing ended, it was on to business, part 2 of the questioning of David Pecker. Pecker, who owned American Media Inc. during the 1990s and early aughts, is a smooth-talking, silver-haired man with a comely mustache who seems to have almost idolized Donald Trump. He described him as someone Americans respected as the boss on The Apprentice, which was also the way Michael Cohen referred to Trump. Pecker said the Trump covers were consistently the National Enquirer's bestsellers. The other covers that sold a lot of Enquirer magazines on the supermarket newsstands, covers featuring stories about Bill Clinton's womanizing and Hillary Clinton enabling him. So making the deal with Michael Cohen, something that he says happened in August 2015 with Cohen and then campaign communications director Hope Hicks in the room, was a win-win. The Enquirer would publish negative stories about Trump's opponents, which they did repeatedly, particularly when Ben Carson, Ted Cruz, and Marco Rubio started rising in the polls in the spring of 2016. and at the same time running positive stories featuring Donald Trump as the ideal next president of the United States, which they also did throughout that year. Pecker was personally invited by Cohen to Trump's presidential announcement in Trump Tower. And he hoped to financially benefit from how many magazines the pro-Trump and anti-Trump competitor issues would sell. A total win-win. He also testified that once Trump announced his presidential bid, that he was in constant communication with Michael Cohen, as Pecker and a small group of AMI editors kept their eyes and ears peeled for stories that could be damaging to Trump, so they could catch them and kill them before they were published anywhere else, at least before the election. And one by one, the prosecutor walked David Pecker through the deals that they cut with Dino Sajudin, the doorman who claimed to have information about a Trump love child with his Hispanic former housekeeper, which Pecker paid $30,000 for, despite his team vetting it and determining it was 1,000% untrue. Yet, they signed a deal with Mr. Sajudin that included a $1 million penalty for breaking it, which they let Sajudin out of in December 2016, after the election. The day ended on the deal AMI cut with Playboy model Karen McDougal, who got $150,000 after pitching a story of her own, a year-long affair with Trump, which she alleges and he denies. Today absolutely felt like a day to set up Cohen's own testimony and to make the point, which they did with exhibits on the big screens in the courtroom, that what Pecker is bringing to the table is not just stories about his favorite tabloid cover subject, but also physical receipts. And it's only just the beginning, as the prosecution hasn't even gotten to the Stormy Daniels part of the story yet. Joining me now is Neil Katyal, former acting Solicitor General and MSNBC legal analyst. Katie Phang, trial attorney and host of the Katie Phang Show right here on MSNBC, who was at the courtroom with me today. And Brian Stelter, Vanity Fair special correspondent and author of the Book of Network Lies. Thank you all for being here. Because you are at a disadvantage, our friend Neil, I'm going to go to you first. What were your impressions on today?
Well, first, I just want to say Katie's coverage of the trial live has been so spectacular.
Indeed.
And it's really criminal that the American public can't see it for themselves. And Katie's the next best thing. And I just have to really, my hat's off to her for translating all of the antics in the courtroom and everything. To me, the big headline is the loss of credibility that Trump's lawyer, Todd Blanche, had when he was trying to defend what Donald Trump was doing with his gag order. I mean, the gag order forbids Trump from commenting on jurors or prospective jurors. Trump clearly violated it. So what did his lawyer, Todd Blanche, do? Deny everything. And deny everything so much so that the judge said, you've broken your reputation with me. And credibility is the currency, Joy, of a lawyer, as Katie knows. And a judge should only look at the facts and the law in a case, not a defendant's wealth or status. And the lawyer is the key part of persuasion in that. And of course, this is all foreign to Donald Trump, who's traded in power and status his whole life. But when his lawyer has lost credibility with the court, that's a very serious statement. It doesn't bode well for Trump's legal team. It bodes very poorly for Donald Trump, because lawyers are like nuclear weapons. If one side has a good one, then the other side has to get one.
Yeah, and there are a couple lawyers on the jury, too. And I want to co-sign what Neil said about you, Katie Phang. You are an exquisite attorney and also have been doing a fantastic job of translating this madness on air. You're doing a great job. And we were buddies today in Team Overflow. Tell me, because it was an interesting sort of... you were telling me the names of everybody, making sure I knew who everybody was. And it was interesting when he seemed to do such a bad job that Todd Blanche actually got moved out of that first chair. But he was like really convening with Trump, and it wasn't really clear if Trump was happy with what he was doing. But what did you make of his performance?
Yeah, so to Neil's point, it is such a tragedy that the American public cannot see the dynamic that's going on inside there. But more specifically, a counsel's table for Donald Trump. Once you could see Donald Trump himself, the level of disinterest, the inattention, the perhaps sleeping that's going on. But things like this. He's not even looking at his lawyer when his lawyer is making arguments about him violating a gag order that could put him in jail. Wouldn't you have some interest if you may be looking at incarceration for up to 30 days? But to your point, Susan Nicholas, who's, according to everybody, people have known her for decades, she's a true criminal defense lawyer to this, in the sense of she really believes everybody deserves a defense. But she parks herself
all the way on the end.
Farthest way physically from Donald Trump. It's almost like she wants to be as far removed.
She was leaning away from him. Like she was at her body language was to lean far away.
Yeah. And so for Todd Blanche to try to reestablish, Hugo talked about this just last hour, this kind of buddy-buddy kind of energy with Donald Trump, I thought that was very telling because it was sheer humiliation.
Yeah.
I mean, Blanche had nothing left to say. And it's one thing to be, it's one thing for the judge to admonish you if you're in your zealousness to represent, that perhaps you argue a little too far. But what was humiliating truly? He had no evidence.
Yeah.
He had no defense.
No argument.
No arguments. And that is the problem when you're a lawyer. You're representing a client who's looking at 34 felonies and you have no evidence to refute it. And then you take a position that is the most absurd one, a repost.
Yeah.
It's not, it just happens. Like Judge Merchan said, oh, it just suddenly appeared. You saw it and suddenly appeared. And so I feel like when this is your Alamo, like you want to die on this hill as a lawyer, it doesn't make any sense. But luckily, in some ways, it didn't happen in front of the jury because jurors sometimes can feel badly for lawyers.
Yeah.
Sometimes they can
Pity was starting to set it. I mean, he really looked sad. He looked pathetic and fidgety and like uncomfortable. He didn't seem comfortable in his skin today at all.
And so jurors sometimes can be like, I feel kind of badly about this lawyer getting yelled at by the judge. And so in a good way, it didn't happen in front of the jury. And then the other good way is it does set a tone that Merchan's not taking it.
Yeah, he's not.
He's not having it.
And I like, Merchan really comes across as just this very genteel, like sort of kind professor who was just over it because you didn't do your homework.